to be fixed, and I don't give a damn if I get fined because that shit cheap, and I am tired of this shit.
It's not about black and white. It's about that white player.
The Chicago Sky have been living in chaos all season. At 5 wins and 13 losses, they're the second worst team in the league. That collapse hasn't been quiet. Angel Reese, the self-proclaimed star of this roster, has been putting up numbers that her fans label as monstrous, but the wins don't follow. 7 losses in their last 10 games tell the real story. And while frustration has been brewing, instead of channeling it into leadership, instead of bringing her team together, Reese has been walking a different path. She's become a ticking time bomb. And in Washington, the inevitable explosion arrived. The game was tied late in the fourth quarter. The Chicago Sky and the Washington Mystics, both desperate for a win, fought tooth and nail in front of a roaring crowd. With less than a minute left, Washington's Shakira Austin went to the line and missed both free throws. A golden opportunity for Chicago.
To the WNBA.
Back a little bit. You can't want to be the villain. You can't pride yourself in being the villain, and then you lose, and all of a sudden you succumb to those emotions.
But Austin grabbed her own rebound and scored, putting the Mystics up by 2. The arena erupted, and panic flickered across Reese's face. She quickly got fouled on the other end, knocked down both free throws, and tied it up. For a moment, it seemed like she might turn herself into the hero. But then came the unraveling. With 30 seconds left, Chicago challenged a foul call, and during the pause and Crosby, the Sky's respected vice president of basketball operations, walked over with a clipboard to go over the plan. This was the moment for composure, for professionalism, for leadership. Reese instead lashed out, smacking the clipboard straight from Crosby's hands in a display that stunned both the bench and the arena. That alone would have been bad enough. But what came after turned a bad moment into a career-defining disaster. Instead of owning the mistake, instead of apologizing, Reese went to Twitter. Her message was tone-deaf, filled with emojis and deflection, painting the outburst as a joke. She wrote, "Those were pissing me off, shout out to," and because she knew it was the heat of the moment and didn't let me apologize because she knew. Not happening again, though. The problem was obvious. She wasn't apologizing. She was cursing, deflecting, and treating Crosby as if she should shoulder the burden of Reese's temper. The laughing emojis and casual tone weren't the signs of maturity. They were the signs of a player doubling down. What should have been a moment of growth instead became a spectacle of immaturity broadcast for the entire sports world to see. And it wasn't isolated. Just 48 hours earlier, Reese had already been in the headlines for a press conference meltdown aimed squarely at referees. Instead of breaking down strategy, she launched into a rant, throwing out F-bombs and threats, making herself the story yet again. It was a pattern, and everyone saw it. But nobody saw it more clearly than Stephen A. Smith. When his voice cut through the noise, it wasn't subtle. It was nuclear. He didn't just criticize Reese. He annihilated her, and in doing so, he turned the spotlight on a much bigger issue within the WNBA. His message was devastating in its simplicity. Stay in your lane. Reese wasn't just called out for one bad night. She was called out for embodying an entire culture of jealousy and unprofessionalism that was dragging the league down. Smith ripped into her tantrums, her social media antics, her lack of accountability. He painted her not as a star, but as a distraction, a reality show auditioning for a role nobody asked for. And then he twisted the knife. He reminded the world of the player who was actually moving the needle, the one who was actually lifting the league to new heights, Caitlin Clark. With stats in hand, Stephen A. made the case undeniable. When Clark played, the WNBA pulled in over 1 million viewers. When she didn't, that number collapsed to under 400,000. Merchandise sales, ticket demand, national headlines, it all traced back to Clark. She wasn't just a player. She was the WNBA's lifeline. Meanwhile, Reese was busy knocking clipboards out of hands and tweeting like a teenager in detention. Stephen A. put it bluntly, players like Reese were so consumed with sending messages, with trying to humble Clark, that they forgot their real job was to win games and grow the sport. And when Clark finally went down injured, the collapse was immediate. Ratings dipped. Ticket prices fell. That fragile bridge between new fans and the WNBA cracked. Stephen A. reminded everyone that he had warned about this. He said the league had allowed its most valuable player to be targeted nightly, while referees swallowed their whistles. He warned that jealousy would eat the WNBA alive. And when it happened, he was ready with 4 words that echoed across the sports world. I told you so. For Reese, the reality was harsher than any technical foul. This wasn't about one tantrum or one tweet. This was about character. About the difference between being a professional and being a spectacle. While Clark was building bridges, Reese was burning them. While Clark was creating opportunity, Reese was creating chaos. And when confronted with a fallout, she chose to play the victim. Stephen A. cut through it all with a final image that stuck. The Caitlin Clark train was moving, with or without Angel Reese. And Reese wasn't just not driving that train. She wasn't even on it. She was left standing on the platform, yelling at the conductor, while everyone else moved forward. The clipboard slap wasn't just a tantrum. It was a metaphor for her entire career to this point. Destructive, disrespectful, and ultimately self-defeating. Until she learns to control her emotions, respect her team, and focus on winning, she'll continue to be defined not by her talent, but by her outbursts. So the question now is simple. Was Stephen A. Smith right to call out Angel Reese with such force, or did he go too far? Let me know what you think in the comments.